Hi there, Saksham this side from AceIPM. In this video, we are going to talk about IPM IIM Rohtak's cutoffs and also the important topics. So without any further ado, let's get started. So last time I made a video on the cutoffs of all IPMs and I briefly touched upon the topic of IIM Rohtak also. But there I received this comment from Swayam which says that the cutoffs for IPM Rohtak was 70% each in 10th and 12th. So, and the cutoffs are bound to rise this year. So should they even apply if in case the past academics are not so great? And I would say this comment has a lot of flaws and it is far from true. But I don't blame you all for this if in case you still felt like, there is a percentage cutoff or something of that sort, because some self-proclaimed entrance test prep gurus on YouTube are misguiding you or spreading misinformation without actually knowing how the admission process works. But nevertheless, we are going to debunk all the myths in this video, and as usual, my videos are more data backed and everything that I talk about, if there is a resource or reference that I've taken, the link of it will be down in the description. So let's get started. Now, this PDF is directly from IIM Rohtak's website. This is the RTI information for the admission process of last year. If you look at it, you certainly have a cutoff for the aptitude test. You also have it for written ability test because both of them were taken together in the case of 2020 admission process. Then you also have cutoffs for past academics for your 10th and 12th. So first of all, it was not 70% in the case of general category. It was 85.14 and 85.97 respectively. But one thing that many people missed over here was this line, which is candidates have been shortlisted if they fulfill any one of the following criteria, either A or B. It's an or condition and not an and condition. You either meet the minimum cutoff marks of your aptitude test and WAT, or you meet the minimum cutoff marks for academics, which is 10th and 12th. This is a one-off exception. Usually you do not have cutoffs in terms of your past academics. The reason they did so was the fact that the exam was conducted online and it was unproctored, so it caused a lot of chaos. So as to make sure the process is fair for all, they had to call in more people for interview so that the final filtering happens in the interview round rather than your aptitude test round, and which is why 5030 people were given the call, of which 200 got admission in IIM Rohtak. So that's how the process worked. In usual cases, you do not have your past academics cutoff over there, and it is an or condition and not an and condition. And even if you look at the cutoffs, this 144 marks is out of 240 because the paper was halved. Usually you will have a paper of 480 marks. Last year was a different case, 240 marks, of which the cutoff was 144. In the case of 2019 paper, the paper was of 480 marks, the cutoff was of 256. So that's how roughly the admission process works. Now enough about the cutoffs and the 2020 admission process. But now that you're applying for it this year, what should be your target in the next 30 days, because the exam is scheduled for 19th of June. So what all topics should you focus more on and what is important from your examination standpoint? So let's talk about it. So this is a list of important QA topics. Ignore the lecture hours and practice sheets. That is for our own students who are part of our crash course. But let's focus on the topics first of all. So if you give any exam outside of IIM Indore's IPM, DU JAT and NPAT for Narsi Monji, all these exams will have a basic level of math which is restricted till class 10th level. In that case, for all these exams, they are predominantly based on questions on arithmetic and number system and also some of PNC probability and set theory. The reason for that is arithmetic as a topic is something which is easily doable even by a non-math student, and even as a science student they do not have any unfair advantage over a non-math student because even they have to start it from scratch. So that's one reason why they're hell-bent on having a lot more arithmetic questions in the paper. If I talk about number system, it's mostly formula based. There's less of conceptual theory available. So in that case, again, that's something which is equally easy or hard for a non-math student and also for a science or a math student. Talking about last year, the paper only had 20 quantitative aptitude questions. Most of them were from the arithmetic part. The rest were from the PNC probability set theory part, predominantly PNC in this case, and there were a couple of questions from number theory too. But last year again was an exception. We cannot take that as a basis and do our preparation accordingly. But in a general way, I would say, be it any exam, if in case you are giving any entrance exam for management except for IIM Indore's IPM, DU JET and NPAT, for other exams, arithmetic is going to be the most important part of that exam, followed by number system, again very important, and then comes your PNC probability theory part. When I talk about PNC probability and set theory, I'm talking only the basic part and not the advanced level of this, but the basic part that will suffice. And that is also the case with these other topics also, because in the case of IIM Indore's IPM, you'll have more of word problems and difficult and tricky questions. In the case of these other exams, you'll have some direct questions, and even if they have word problems, they aren't as tricky. So that is also one of the reasons why the cutoffs are high. In the case, if you compare the cutoffs for IIM Rohtak versus IIM Indore, they are a lot higher, and the reason for that is the paper in itself is easier, which is why people are able to score more, which drives up the cutoffs. So if in case you are preparing for this, first of all, focus on the arithmetic part, followed by number system. And then you also have these three topics in modern math, which you should be focusing on: PNC, probability, set theory, again the basic stuff only. After these three topics, you also have algebra, again basic topics like identities, linear equations, factorization, quadratic, higher degree, inequalities, progressions and series is going to be there in the entrance. Again, it will have a slight weightage, but not as much when compared to number system and arithmetic. And again, this is something general for all the basic entrances. You will also have some questions coming from geometry. Again, it does not carry that much of a weightage, but you will have questions. When I talk about triangles, I'm also including the basic trigonometry over there, heights and distance. So you need to keep that in mind. All of this combined will take care of the QA portion of IPMAT Rohtak, JIPMAT, SIMBI, Christ, and all these exams that you are going to appear for, except for the three that I have already mentioned. If I talk about English, it remains the same for all the entrances. You have basically four components, one being your reading comprehension, then you have grammar. In grammar, mostly you will have sentence correction. Then you have vocabulary. In the case of Indore, you do not have the direct vocabulary questions, but in the case of Rohtak, you will have direct vocabulary questions, be it in terms of analogy or synonyms, antonyms, or meanings, or maybe idioms and phrases. And you might also have word usage and things of that sort. And finally, you will have some portion of verbal logic or critical reasoning, like you might have para-jumbles, para-completion, and things of that sorts. That is for your verbal ability part. But in the case of Rohtak, you will also have a section called the logical reasoning. Now, there is nothing less or more important over here. Anything can come. You can also have the some portion of data interpretation coming, but as long as you are done with ratios, proportion and percentages, you will be able to do that, because that is basic DI. Even in the case of Indore, they only have bar graphs and line charts, and that would suffice, or maybe pie charts. So it's all basic. In the case of LR, you'll have topics like codes, inequalities, relationships or directions, arrangements, linear, complex, circular, logical conditioning, groupings, things of that sort. And you will also have topics like, verbal reasoning, like series, analogies, odd man out, selection criteria. You can also have input, output, syllogism, visual reasoning, logical puzzles, and whatnot. There is no set syllabus in the case of logical reasoning, or even the entire paper for that matter. They do not have any official syllabus. But from what we have observed from the past year papers of Rohtak, and also from past year papers of regular BB entrances, these are the topics which we see frequently coming up in these entrances. So those are the topics that you should be preparing for when it comes to IPMAT Rohtak. Again, people who are appearing for Indore will also appear for Rohtak, but if in case you're just starting out your preparation, I would advise you to focus on these topics first, get over with them. If in case the exam gets conducted on 19th of June, you'll at least be done with these topics and you will be able to ace the IPMAT Rohtak also. After you're done with that entrance, that is when you can shift focus to Indore and do the other topics which are important from IPMAT Indore standpoint. Also on the topic whether this exam will get conducted on 19th of June or not, as I said earlier, I am as clueless as you are. So, I have no clear answer to that. One thing I can tell you is that if in case the boards get conducted, the exam is bound to happen afterwards, because they cannot conduct it in between the boards. And in that case, the gap between the boards and the entrance won't be as much, maybe 7 days, but that's how it will be conducted. If in case the boards get cancelled or they get postponed again, in that case, again I feel like they won't go for an online entrance this year. If in case they do, it will be a proctored one, but even a proctored one is unlikely, and in that case they'll have to defer it to some other date. But you prepare for the worst and try to complete your syllabus before 19th of June itself. And also, now that we have talked about all the things, what should be the target score in this exam? Again, the cutoff for Rohtak in 2019 was 256 out of 480. In the case of 2020, it was 144 out of 240 with a couple other clauses. You have 40% weightage given to your past academics, so your past academics will play an important role in 10th and 12th. A good score, if in case you have excellent past academics, in that case a score of 300 plus should suffice. But if in case you ask me a question like my percentage is so and so, then what should be my target score in 80? I'm sure like even after saying this over here, I'll still get comments of that sort. But the answer is I do not know. I don't know how they rank you on the basis of your marks. I'm not sure if it's a linear component or they have slabs made or something of that sort. So I cannot really tell you about it. All I can say is try to score as much as you can so as to compensate for your past academics if in case they aren't so good. That being said, we have one final query that they have a minimum eligibility criteria of 60% in 12th boards. So in that case, would they not wait for the result to come so as to conduct their entrance? The answer to that is no. The result is required before they give the final calls, because in that case, you have that past academics weightage there. In the case of the minimum eligibility criteria, you will give the entrance before your boards or after your boards and before the result is announced. Once the result is announced, most likely before your interview process, they'll ask you for your percentage. If in case you are scoring or you are failing to meet the minimum eligibility criteria, you are then kicked out of the process at that moment rather than starting the process after the result has come out. So that's how it works. That being said, if in case you're preparing for IPM and other management entrances, you can consider joining AceIPM for the entrance preparation course, which is taught by your seniors from IPM. You get a set of 22 booklets which are delivered to your doorstep. You have mocks that closely align with your actual exam. And on top of all this, you have unparalleled support from IPM mentors. So you might want to check us out on our website. You can also book a free counseling session with us, the link of which is down in the description. And thanks for joining in. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more such updates. Good luck for your preparation, stay safe, and thank you.